Today on the 1012 Picks Pod, myself and Chase are joined by Tyler Shoemaker, the man behind the TShoe Index, to make picks for every Big 12 game in Week 10. That includes the massive showdown between Kansas State and Texas Tech, Baylor, UCF, Utah, Cincinnati, and every other game on the schedule coming up on the 1012 Picks Pod.
Anyone can follow. It takes something special to be an original, which is why the 2025 Lincoln Navigator SUV arrives with new ways of surrounding you in luxury, including the ultra-wide 48-inch panoramic display and the multi-sensory Lincoln Rejuvenate experience. A true original never stops evolving. So meet the 2025 Navigator, the original that's all new and better than ever. Learn more at Lincoln.com. Lincoln and Navigator are trademarks of Ford or its affiliates.
Hey friends, this is Audie Cornish, host of CNN This Morning and The Assignment, and guess what? Every story you care about, every angle you want unpacked is now streaming on CNN. That means you can catch my show or other CNN programming whenever you want on your favorite device. And a subscription also gets you access to exclusive video series and unlimited articles. So subscribe to CNN at cnn.com/subscription.
Welcome to the 1012 Picks Pod, where every week myself, Phillip, Slavin, Chase A. Kiddy from BetMGM, and a guest make picks for every Big 12 game on the schedule. This, of course, is Week 10. We've got a great lineup coming up. The 1012 Podcast is the flagship show of the 1012 Network. Find every show on the network at 1012network.com. We're also partners with Sports Social, Europe's biggest sports podcast network. Wherever you are listening, please do us a favor. Leave us 5 stars and a review. It takes you just a few minutes, but it's a huge thing for us. It would mean the world to me. It really does help the show out. And if you're watching or listening on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe. Leave a comment. I try and check every once in a while and respond to those as best I can. I've been looking forward to this episode for a while, not because it's Week 10 and not because of the games on the slate, but because I very much have been looking forward to getting this guest picker on the show. This is a busy man, okay? He continues to just add to his plate every year. He's gone beyond us. Like he's got national stuff he's doing, but he also has kids, and then he coaches those kids in things like volleyball. And so we had to wait for volleyball season to get over to get him on here. And I am thrilled to have the man behind the TShoe Index himself, Tyler Shoemaker, back on the show. Tyler, welcome back to the 1012, sir.
So good to be back. I was thinking about it earlier. I think we missed each other last year. I don't think we were able to nail a date down last year. So I think this is my first appearance in 2 years. So I'm excited to be back. I appreciate you guys. As always, you guys are always super supportive and promoting me online. So I definitely appreciate it. So happy to come back on and talk some Big 12 with you guys.
Well, I love your work. Yours is one of the stats we talk about on every episode. You're one of the ones I love to have on and rely on, and it's always a pleasure to have you on the show. You're a great guest. So, been working all season to find a spot to get you here, and I'm thrilled for it to happen this week.
Yeah, me too. Glad we could finally nail down a date. I know we've been trying for 2 months now, so glad we can make it happen.
Listen, I get it. Like my girls, like soccer season's over, tennis season's over. I've got one kid in dance that never ends. So like, I get it. You know, when you got kids, there's activities and you got to work around those things.
Oh, and my kids are so spaced apart. Like I've got a senior, an 8th grader, and a 4th grader, and they're all in different stuff. And, you know, I still play ball myself. So like I've got a ton on my plate, obviously.
Has the dunk happened yet?
For me lately,
yeah,
not in game. I had a kind of a Shaq in a full moment a couple weeks ago in a game. I got a breakaway and I was like, all right, I'm dunking so well. Like I put down a windmill a couple weeks ago, just after a game. Finally got a breakaway. I felt the defender coming behind me, and the gym that we play at is like really old, and the floor is like kind of slick sometimes. And as soon as I planted my plant foot, my right foot, it just kept going. It was kind of like that Steph Curry video where he goes to dunk and just slides and falls on his butt. It was the exact same thing. It was kind of embarrassing, but also just like maddening that like that was my shot and I slid instead of jumping.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that moment with us. Apologize. Hope that all the bruises are healed. Speaking of semi-embarrassing things we have to talk about, Chase, I feel like last year it was let's give Chase fatherhood advice, and this year's turned into let's ask Chase for his weird food thing this week. Um, do you often have food from gas stations delivered to your home? Is that a thing people
This
do?
is
And I just
I can't decide if this is more regional or more cultural. But yeah, I was trying to explain before the show started what Sheets was to Phillip, because I guess they don't have them in like the Southwest, the Midwest. I know they have them in North Dakota because Sam Herder told me one time that they did. But at first, I think we were doing a show, and he thought I was asking if they had sheets on his bed. Like, oh,
yeah, that's
you
where I thought
dirty
you were
North
saying.
Dakotans up there. Yeah, that's what he thought I was saying. But no, it's a gas station. They have great appetizers, good mott sticks, like their chicken. Yeah, you just order it, shows up to the house. East Coast, we have a big Sheets versus Wawa debate. You're either a Sheets person or a Wawa person.
So I feel like these are like the East Coast Quick Trip, even though I don't have food from Quick Trip delivered when I lived near a Quick Trip.
We recently got a Buc-ee's actually very close to JMU, and it's kind of like a lesser version of a Buc-ee's. Like, it's not that big, it doesn't have that much merch, but it's a big gas station with a lot of stuff.
You mean the snack store that also has gas pumps?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Tyler, before we dive in, I'd be remiss again. We talk about your numbers here on the show every week. You, if anyone isn't, they should be subscribed. You do great work putting out lines and data every single week, but kind of explain to everybody how the TShoe Index is made. How is the sausage made? What kind of goes into your weekly data?
Yeah, so I mean, in the most simplest terms, when I started this 7-8 years ago, I just wanted to answer the question: how many points would Team A be expected to score and allow against Team B? And there are a million ways, as I've found, to get to that point. And in each season, I refine the process and factor in different things more heavily, factor in recent performance more heavily. And I, if you've heard me talk on any shows that I do, I often talk about or write about the additional formulas that I run on the side that some kind of contribute to my official TSI number and some don't. I also like to have some just separate formulas that I run on the side. That way, when I'm handicapping these games, I don't want to just have tunnel vision and only look at it through one lens. I want to try to almost disprove the TSI projection. Like, why would this bet possibly lose, or why would this projection possibly be wrong? And that's kind of my process. But in terms of like some of the stuff that goes into it, some of the stats that I look at and think are important are, more efficiency metrics like points per play, points per drive, that sort of thing. I've been experimenting with some success rate and some explosiveness metrics as well. So a lot of different things that I'm constantly testing, constantly tweaking. But at the end of the day, like I said, it's about how many points teams would score and allow, because that's ultimately what drives the projections, what drives the bets. So that's what's important to me.
Listen, you write for VSiN, and we use VSiN here every week, so I can get my my different line options. You're popping up on Andy and Ari on On3 now. Like, you just keep being on the rise, man. Next stop is what, ESPN Bet? Is that the next?
Yeah, we'll see. It has it's been kind of a whirlwind. The last, I think 2022 was the first season that I had any type of like paid opportunity to present my numbers. I've been doing my numbers since 2017, but 2022 is really the first paid opportunity I got. And then from that, I've just kind of, parlayed that into various opportunities since. I'm enjoying it. I still love doing it. I'm trying to, I hired a couple of assistants this football season to help take some things off my plate, some of the tedious work. So it's been really good. I want to continue to grow, kind of my TSI network and bring people in to contribute in different ways. I have an NFL prop guy now that I hired to help with that, because props are not my specialty. So I know people are interested in that. So I brought a guy in for that. So I'm trying to expand. And again, I appreciate you guys for always promoting me and probably hyping me up a little too much.
I should add here, I have a fun parasocial relationship with Tyler because he does Gil Alexander's show, A Numbers Game, on Tuesdays. and I go to the gym Tuesday night and listen to the podcast version of his show while I'm working out. So it's somewhere around the time where I get down to like chest arms that we get to hour 2, and I'm like listening to Tyler while I'm like, set 2, let's go. TShoe Index. So that's a lot of fun.
I love it. I will never be able to look at that show the same now.
Can't wait.
Chase, your like weird semi-connection to every guest we have on the show is always funny to me. It's like, Chase, we're just going to start doing 6 degrees of separation with Chase and whoever our guest is each week to see how we get there. And listening to him while I lift at the gym on Tuesdays is definitely going to be up there among the best.
Yeah.
Okay. And of course, Tyler, you're going to have men's college basketball ratings and women's college basketball. It's one of the other reasons I like you so much is you have your WNBA and you have your women's college basketball. And as a podcast that likes to talk women's basketball, and of course we have Jamie Stye here on the show on a regular basis, and she is very well aware of your work as well. Like it's great that we know that we can talk TShoe Index pretty much year round now. Like there's no time off.
Yeah, that's
for Tyler Shoemaker.
Definitely, that's the goal, is just to keep this thing going year round. I've got women's schedules being pulled as we speak right now via script being pulled into my sheet that I use. So getting geared up for college basketball, men's and women's.
All right, looking forward to it. Before we dive into this week's picks, though, we've got to look back at the week that was. Chase, our guests are on a roll. Absolutely on a roll. Last week, if you didn't listen, we had Oliver Hodgkinson of the over from the UK. Absolutely fantastic guest. He won the week 6-2. Phenomenal week. Our guests are okay. What is it? We haven't had a losing week from the guests since week 5. The guests are now, what is it? 10-6, 11-8, 17-10. So the guests, Tyler, like, you got to keep this trend going. I'm just going to let you know now. He went 6-2. Hits were BYU +3, Cincinnati -3.5, Texas Tech -37.5, Houston +7.5, Utah -13.5, and Memphis +5 versus USF. The misses were Kansas -2.5 versus Kansas State, and TCU -15.5 versus West Virginia. 6-2 on the week for Oliver. The guests are now to 37-41. This is quite the climb they've come. So, Tyler, you could push the guests up to or over 500 this week. It's big. It's a big opportunity here, man.
Big opportunity, but a lot of pressure. If they're doing that well, they're on that kind of heater over the last month. I don't want to let them down. I don't want to be the guy to break the streak, but so I'm gonna do my best.
All streaks have to end at some point, so we'll find out. Chase, you went 4-4 last week. Hits were Cincinnati -3.5. Oklahoma State team total under 8.5, Utah -13.5, and San Diego State -2.5 versus Fresno State. 4-4 on the week, 41-40-1 on the season so far. So
I'll take it, man. I'll take anything near or above 500 for picking an entire conference for a whole year. I mean, that, which is an amazing feat in its own right. And then you hear that the guest is north of 60% for the last month, and you're like, that's nuts. I mean, that's unheard of.
It's wild. Oh yeah, especially on this show. Like, guests usually it's impressive. I sucked last week, 3-5. The hits were Kansas State +3, Cincinnati first half -2.5, and Houston +7.5. The misses were Iowa State -2.5, over 56.5 in Texas Tech, Oklahoma State, over 55 in TCU, West Virginia, under 50.5 in Utah, Colorado, and my Toledo +2.5 versus Wazoo did not pan out. Toledo just could not actually score points. They got the drives, but they could not cross the finish line and do anything from a scoring standpoint. So that did not work. I'm at 39-43 so far in the season. So I need a winning week. I need to get back closer to Chase here. Plenty of opportunity this week. We've got 7 Big 12 games and a non-Big 12 game to pick. An absolutely loaded slate. So you fellas ready to dive in and do this?
Please, let's do it.
All right. Let's get to it after this break.
This episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. Healthcare professionals can lead their careers with LinkedIn. Discover jobs by specialty, preferred shifts, and even desired salary. From mental health therapists to radiology technicians, it's now faster and easier for healthcare professionals to find the right fit. Learn more at linkedin.com/healthcare. Side effects may include faster job placement, improved work-life balance, and increased career satisfaction.
It is week 10. We've got 8 games to talk about today, 7 Big 12, 1 non-Big 12, loaded slate. BYU and TCU are idle this week. It's a good week for BYU to be idle. I don't have to worry about a week where I feel weird. There's something about this week. The vibes are, I don't know why, but they're a little bit off. Is this one of those weeks where the Big 12 eats itself alive? It's the vibe I'm getting from it. I don't know what it is, but there's something about the matchups and some things around them that makes me go, is this the week the chaos strikes again? This is the Big 12. It happens a lot. As you should know if you're a regular listener, but because every podcast is hopefully someone's first, we do this in chronological order every week. That means we're starting off with the morning, no weeknight games, Saturday games only. We start at 11 a.m. God's time on ESPNU with Baylor welcoming UCF to Waco. Oh boy, Baylor a 3.5-point favorite over the Knights. Total in this one's 59.5, pretty much across the board. Chase, since you did better than me last week, you get to go first, sir. What would you like here?
Yeah, I mean, I'm at the point. I'm probably repeating myself at this point from previous episodes with Baylor. I'm at the point where if you're playing somebody that's competent in a conference game and you're Baylor, you cannot be laying more than 3 points. Just the defense is not there up the middle in front. So for me, I played this at 4.5 earlier in the week. I took a little piece of the money line as well with UCF. I will be on UCF plus 3.5 here. And I'll add that if you like the money line part of it, our shop at BetMGM has plus 155. That is the best number in the market right now for the dog.
That is interesting. Okay. It is interesting looking at the stats that we look at each week. I'll leave Tyler's for himself to look at, but I've got SP plus on UCF minus 1.5. I've got beta on UCF minus 1.22. Otherwise, I've got FEI with Baylor minus 1.2, Parker with Baylor minus 0.5 point, Pear with Baylor minus 1.5, and Kelly Ford, K4 rating is Baylor a 58% chance to win. So, I mean, this is everything is like, yeah, we think Baylor might win or UCF might win, but definitely we don't think that they're going to cover this. We just don't. Looking at the EPA data on Parker's CFB Graphs site, if you have not gone and checked that site out yet, you really should. It's such a good site. And man, he has been putting some work into it. It looks freaking awesome. This is bad UCF offense versus bad Baylor defense, and good UCF defense. I'm going to use air quotes good versus good Baylor offense. To me, I think this game gets pointy. I think UCF is probably going to be the right side of this, but there's some data that says UCF off of idle weeks is actually not good, but we've got a new head coach. I use new in very loose terms, being a repeat coach, but they have not been very good off of idle weeks over the past few years. I don't know what that means for this year because it's hard to stick with trends like that when you change coaches and coaching staffs and rosters. And so I look at a game where I get bad defense versus bad offense and a good offense versus an okay-ish defense. I do think UCF getting their quarterback back is going to make an impact in this game. I'm going to go ahead and ride with the over in this one. Best number I see is pretty much 59.5. I think this one should go over. I think both teams are going to get points. This one feels like last team to score wins this game. And as we have seen in Baylor UCF games in the past, who knows who that's going to be, but I feel like we're going to see some points in this one. So over 59.5 for me. Tyler?
Yeah, I am with Chase here. I haven't bet this one yet, but I think I'm going to, and I'm going to be on UCF. Early in the week, we saw the market go from 4.5 to 5 or 5.5 towards Baylor. So that kind of kept me off early in the week, but now we've seen that come back down to 3.5, like you mentioned. I project this UCF minus 1.2. What's funny is in the preseason, I would have had this Baylor minus 13.5. I think Baylor, honestly, I think both teams are worse than we, at least than I thought they were going to be coming into the year. But looking at the trends, my number now is all on-field data. I have no priors baked in. I do look at the prior formula on the side, but it's not baked into my number anymore. But then I also look at the last 3 games to see how these teams are trending, and it's like a perfectly linear trend line going towards UCF here. So I'm going to be on UCF plus the 3.5.
Tyler, I'm glad you brought up your preseason because I actually exactly wanted to ask you about that. To me, this game and a few other games in conference and elsewhere in college football this year or this week, it feels like either as a branding exercise or as a preseason priors exercise, the numbers are a little out of whack. And this one to me felt like there was too much prior baked into the number for it to be up at 4.5 open. And I know I've heard you talk about this before about how the weighting of the preseason versus the recent evolves as the season gets deeper. Is that something you think is happening here, that maybe there's still a little too much weight on how Baylor was perceived in August versus how they're perceived in actuality on the field on November 1st?
Yeah, I think definitely, and that's been a big reason for kind of the evolution of my process over the years in phasing out those priors, especially now that we're, so heavily into the transfer portal era. Like yes, the preseason numbers are important, and obviously we have to do them to have some sort of baseline because we know all teams don't start from the same position, so you can't just not have preseason numbers. But to your point, I do think right here in this middle part of the season, late October, early November, I do think those can definitely influence some of these lines that we're seeing until odds makers get those preseason priors kind of completely out, which I know I've heard Kelly Ford say that he keeps his in all year, which is why his numbers are generally, the most in line with the market, which is why I'll reference his numbers as well to see kind of where the market should be. And then my number is kind of a more projection based than an actual market number.
Nothing like a Kelly Ford name drop by the guest as well. Look at that. That's fantastic stuff. Not to spend too much time on a Baylor UCF game, but 2 other quick thoughts before we move on. It is really interesting. You've got a school in Baylor with a head coach who it feels like the days are short for versus a first year guy who a lot of people obviously wanted back from his glory days. And you've got 2 teams sitting here with 4 wins, need 2 more to get to bowl eligibility. Obviously, UCF has 5 more games on the schedule and Baylor has just 2. But this also feels a little bit like a loser is eliminated from bowl contention. Not officially, but both teams really need this win, especially Baylor if they want to have any shot at a bowl. It'd be real weird for Baylor to have to fire a head coach if he reaches a bowl game. Not that we haven't seen those kinds of things before, Texas Tech. But it's just, it's always awkward. And you're like, hey, he got us to a bowl game, but thanks, bye. So just a lot of things in this game, I think, that are going to make it way more interesting than the fact that it's just 2 teams with 4 wins thus far into the season. Okay, moving down the list, we've got another one for the morning, 11 a.m. God's time on FS1. Houston coming off their massive upset win over Arizona State, playing host to West Virginia in a game that I feel like should be a rivalry game, but West Virginia says nothing outside of Virginia Tech and Pitt is ever allowed to be a rivalry game. That's fine. Whatever. This one just feels like it could be. Yeah, Maryland. But yeah, but you also call Penn State one, and so
that it's. I guess there is a section of the fan base that does that. I don't know if most of us do.
You just waited a year. You guys could have hired their coach. Anywho, okay. Getting sidetracked. Houston. A 13.5 point home favorite. Total in this one's at pretty much 49.5 across the board. I'm up first. Let me just do this. Everybody except FEI has Houston covering this number. I have zero reason to believe, even if it does go for the under, which if I was taking a total, I would probably lean towards that, to believe that Houston, with the defense the way they're playing, cannot beat West Virginia by 2 touchdowns. So just go ahead. I'll make this short and sweet. Give me Houston minus 13.5. I get it, but also Houston is a team to me that's continued to improve as the season has progressed. I see no reason for West Virginia going on the road to with a team that continues to just kind of be lackluster to try and really give Houston some sort of threat. If you want to say, well, they're coming off the big win and they're going to have a hangover, sure, maybe, possibly. I think they cover this 2 touchdown spread. Give me Houston minus 13.5. Tyler.
Wow. So the line's down to 13.5. Sorry, I have not checked the line since this morning. Last time I looked, it was 15.5, which
15.5
would
Yep.
flip my pick here because my projection on the game is Houston minus 14.5, which, right there splitting where the market's been. So I'm actually glad to see that because there's no way I could bet West Virginia here. They've been trending down for the last few weeks, going into that TCU game last week, and then they showed some life. So now I think this is the perfect spot to fade them. I think their sign of life was last week. I think, like you said, going on the road now to Houston, looking at the way the numbers are trending, preseason, I would have only made Houston a 3-point favorite. Like I said, as it stands, season long, I make Houston 14.5. But over the last 3 games, and that's including West Virginia showing some fight last week against TCU, I still make Houston a 17-point favorite because, to your point, Phillip, Houston's been progressively getting better over the course of the season. So there's no way I could bet West Virginia here. So now that the line is under 14, I would take Houston minus the points here.
Good news for both of us, actually. There's a 13 at FanDuel, so don't even have to worry about the hook. Not that it makes that big of a difference at 13 to 13.5. Ace, what would you like, sir?
I think there's not a lot to add here that you guys haven't already said. The idea that it's come in from 15.5 to 13.5, evidently there's a 13 at FanDuel, great. Most of the market's still at 13.5. I mean, that would pretty obviously suggest that somebody somewhere likes the Mountaineers. I don't really know why. I mean, I guess the idea is it's probably primarily originating on the Houston side of this. Like, oh, is there some kind of letdown spot? Are they now priced out after the win last week in Tempe? And then I guess you could also say, particularly in the second half, West Virginia looked, as live as they have looked in Big 12 play this year. I just don't care. Like, I'm not taking West Virginia on the road against a really bad matchup Houston team at less than 2 touchdowns. That's just stupid. And I'm a West Virginia fan, and that's stupid. So I will also be laying the points with you guys.
We have a consensus. No, we're sorry now, Houston. Or, I think it's about 50-50 so far this year. So there's a little bit of a trend in the other direction. Also, I still feel like there's value on Houston because people still think too much about the fact that they had that weird game against Oregon State earlier in the season. And I know that I think maybe there's some course correction because they have the big upset at Arizona State, but I still feel like there's a little bit baked in here of Houston, they're not very good, right? It's just defense. It's just not.
I mean, it's a team with a clear defensive identity against a team that has no idea what it's trying to do on offense. And even if it did, it doesn't have the personnel to do it. So
yeah.
And to me, I mean, this is just lay the hammer down.
Yeah, Chase, I think you made a good point where this potentially could have been a letdown spot for Houston after last week's win. If they were going to Morgantown, I would have different feelings about that. I would think that was definitely ripe for a letdown spot for Houston. But playing at home, West Virginia now coming off, like you said, their best game in conference play. Now they're on the road against a good team and a very good defense. Like I don't see it. I'm going with the Cougs.
Yeah, it's the opponent. Like, you would say this was a letdown spot if it was any of the other 3 games remaining on their schedule, like at UCF, home for TCU, or at Baylor. Home against West Virginia, no. Perfect timing for this to come right after a big win to set Houston up for another W. Plus, Houston's been so much better at home than on the road so far this season. Like, it's been very different. Yes, Texas Tech, blah, blah, blah. It's Texas Tech. All right, moving on down to our last morning game. TNT might have themselves a good one. Finally, we keep thinking that they're going to have a good game, and then we get a Sunflower Showdown that's an absolute blowout, and TNT deserves a good game because it's the best coverage of Big 12 football out there, period, end of story. I know College Game Day is going to Utah, Cincinnati. Finally, after a decade, they're going back to a Big 12 game. That's awesome. That's good for the Big 12 conference. Talking about another potential game day appearance for the Big 12 coming up soon. But I'm still all aboard the TNT Express, and everything about their coverage of Big 12 has been absolutely phenomenal. So let's hope we get a good game. It might not be, given some of the news that we now have about the road team, Iowa State, playing host to Arizona State this weekend. Noon kickoff on TNT. Absolutely love it. Iowa State currently a 7.5-point home favorite. Total in this one, 48.5, 49, if the total is of interest to you. Tyler, you are up first, sir. What would you like here?
Yeah, this one's tough because obviously Leavitt being out for Arizona State, not great. So it looks like the market made about a 4-point adjustment for that. So adjusting my number about 4 points, I would make Iowa State minus 6.5. So I will take Arizona State plus the touchdown here on the number and just on principle that I do feel like a lot of times, especially in college football, players get overrated by the market. So again, me adjusting my number here just for this exercise as much as the market did is probably even too much, and I'm still not all the way to the 7.5. So I'm going to take the Sun Devils, I guess, cautiously.
All right, Chase.
I had the exact same handicap and the same reaction as Tyler. This, to me, feels like an overcorrection from Leavitt to Sims. Tyler's probably a better person to articulate this, but I also had the thought that whatever downgrade you're supposed to assign to Arizona State because of the quarterback situation, I wonder how much of that downgrade is muted by Iowa State's defensive backfield issues. So I thought on the far side of 7, this is way too much. I think on principle, it's really hard to lay 7 in the hook with an Iowa State team that hasn't won a game in over a month. So I'm also on the Arizona State thing, and I think it's kind of it's not even necessarily a buy low. It's this number shouldn't be that high, and I'm gonna go against the overcorrection of the market.
Okay, so I think that's interesting. Let's note one thing about last week's game against BYU. Like if not for the turnovers, I think Iowa State wins that game. But like, Iowa State's up 17-7. They're marching down the field. First interception of the game. BYU turns it into 7 points. 3 second-half turnovers lets BYU kind of run away with a game that it felt like Iowa State was controlling at halftime. So, listen, BYU is like second among Power 4 teams in the country at turnovers forced so far this year, behind Kansas State. Like, I'm going to take that game and set it aside. I feel a little bit better about Iowa State, I think, than you both do in this spot. I do think they made some necessary corrections, and I think it's just that you keep turning the ball over and over again, especially numerous times in the second half. It's going to just like BYU is a good team who keeps getting better. Like they are a team that for weeks I didn't trust, and I'm starting to trust because I do think that is a team that is better now than they were in week 1, and they survived early on and are now becoming a more competent and complete football team, which makes sense when you have a quarterback who, joined in the spring and is now been in the system for long enough to continue to be better. But we're not talking about BYU. We're talking about Iowa State and Arizona State. I will note Arizona State without Sam Leavitt, the last 2 seasons, 0-2. Losing by an average of 21 points. That was at Cincinnati last year and, of course, at Utah this year, both on the road. I will note he was kind of in and out of the game last week against Houston as well, which he wasn't great early in the game, so it's not like it's all because they didn't have Sam Leavitt. Jordan Tyson, still questionable for this game. I don't feel confident either way. I think I would lean that he probably plays, but he is questionable. And if you're down Jordan Tyson and Sam Leavitt, I'm way less concerned about Iowa State's secondary if both of those guys are not suiting up in this game. Arizona State's offense continues to struggle to score in the red zone, 15 touchdowns and 33 red zone trips so far this season. That includes last week's games. All of that said, Chase, I need your help here. I need 2 numbers because it's going to help me decide which one I'm going to pick. I need what is Iowa State's first half line, and then what is Iowa State's first half team total? Here's why I asked this question. The Cyclones this year versus FBS competition. 108 points in the first half of games, 69 points in the second half of games. Only once this season against an FBS opponent did they score more points in the second half than the first, and that was Kansas State in Ireland all the way back in week 0. So I'm very interested in first half numbers for Iowa State in this game. Okay, Chase, what you got?
3.5 mostly across the board for Iowa State, with a 4.5 at FanDuel. Team totals, still a lot of people trying to post the team totals, but I do see a couple 13.5 juiced at DraftKings, 14.5 plus 118 at.
All right. So I can get Iowa State minus 3.5 in the first half.
You can.
Great. I will take Iowa State minus 3.5 first half in this one. This team this season has been good in the first half against teams. They're much better offensively in the first half. They've had control in a lot of these games at halftime or been up at halftime. And it's the second half that just seems to get them. The mistakes happen. The offense seems to stall out for some whatever reason. I think Iowa State's the right side here. I think they can probably cover the 7.5 without Sam Leavitt, but I like them much, much better at home in a game here to be able to cover 3.5 in the first half. So that's what I'll ride with this one. All right. That takes us from the morning slate to the afternoon slate. 2 games to talk about here. 2 very, very different games. Let's start with the big one, the good one, the doozy of the game. 2:30 on Fox. We get the 30th anniversary Big 12 game. This one's they changed the logo to the classic old logo from like 9603 for the Big 12 on all the social accounts. So there's something in the works here, maybe. Or maybe it's just a logo change for the conference on social media. We'll find out when we get closer to Saturday. Kansas State playing host to Texas Tech, the hottest team in the Big 12 versus potentially the best team in the Big 12. Well, I'm excited for this one. Texas Tech, a 7-point road favorite in Manhattan. Total is 52.5. Chase, I believe you're up first, sir. What would you like here?
Yeah, I mean, after we talked on Sunday night, I was pretty confident I was going to come in here and bet the 7.5. And there are still some 7.5s out there at Hard Rock. I think FanDuel has a juiced one. But it's more 7s than 7.5s at this point, and that's because the market is doing. I think there's probably two-way action, but they have keyed in on this game, I think is what I'm trying to say. Like this is a game where people have opinions, even if it's not a consensus opinion. I'm going to shy off of the side here, just because I think if you're Texas Tech, I'm putting myself in the mentality of like a coach or a player in that locker room. You've already lost your margin for error with the Arizona State game. You have to. Everybody knows what the Big 12's reputation is in this conference. I'm sure there are no illusions about what a 2-loss Big 12 team would be in terms of what the options are going forward. So I think Texas Tech is just in kill mode now. That's my suspicion, is that you're going to get really strong outings from Texas Tech, even if there are, injuries at key positions or not everybody on the offense that matters is at 100%. I'm looking at the under here because I think the most bankable thing we've had from Texas Tech this year is that that defensive front is going to wreck people. They're going to go in there. They're going to wreck Kansas State's offense. Whether or not they cover 7 is a different story. But I think we're going to get a low-scoring game, and I like the under. I like under 53.5, and I will mention here that Tech is 3-0 to the under in road games because that is kind of how they have played out. Maybe you don't get the best offensive showing from Texas Tech on the road, but their defense travels, and it's going to be a low-scoring game, under 53.5.
Who's got the 53.5? I see 52.5s.
Has it come down?
I believe you. I just don't see it.
I mean, you might be right. Let me see. It was 53.5 a couple hours ago when I did my notes. 53.5 at DraftKings, 53.5 at Fanatics.
Done.
DraftKings probably the one that matters there.
That's fine because I love that. I love that pick. I love it. Because I said lean Kansas State or the under. That's what I've got here. And I'm given the two defenses, and the resurgence for Kansas State has been the defense so far more than the offense, that the under, I'm riding along with you is the long story short here on the under this one, because I think that's the right side. And listen, with Texas Tech, we've seen that the offense sometimes can kind of not convert every great drive into touchdowns, but the defense has been solid enough that it hasn't mattered a whole lot. And so the under makes a lot of sense in this game. Plus, just how healthy is Baron Morton? Like, he's going to go out there, he's going to play. If something happens to him, Well, Will Hammond is out for the year, so who's our backup quarterback for Texas Tech? I don't know. They may really have to rely on the defense in this one and the run game and try and give Baron Morton as much rest as they possibly can. So that, to me, also leans toward the under in this game. Now here's the thing about the side on this one. This game screams upset. Forget the fact that Kansas State's the hottest team in the Big 12. Reminds me of Kansas in the back half of last season, and the fact that the Kansas State is at home, and they can feel that the season is starting to turn around. Reese Davis dropping hints that game day is going to be in Lubbock next week for Texas Tech versus BYU. That certainly screams like, oh no, BYU's off. So upset heading into a game where you expect some marquee matchup, and then one of the team drops the game the week ahead of time because they teased it. Lots of little things scream upset. I don't like, I don't want to side here. I don't want to touch a side. The under, I feel much more confident in. So you and I, Chase, we're both taking under 53.5. Tyler.
I think you guys are dead on it. The market definitely agrees with you. The line has been coming down. And the interesting thing here, looking at all of my numbers are on the over, and the fact that the market has so heavily taken a position on the under tells me that the under probably is the right side here. Because again, like, my numbers are not going to take into consideration like the quarterback injury situation and that sort of thing. I think I'm with you, Phillip. Like, I don't want to touch the side. My numbers project Texas Tech -11, but looking at the last three would make Kansas State a half-point favorite. So what do you do with that? So I think I'm going to take the Kansas State team total under 21.5 at DraftKings -110. Because I think that kind of makes everyone right here, where I think the under's the play. I mean, if Texas Tech wins the game 17-3, I don't think anyone's going to be all that surprised. Yes, that would be a cover, but also I leave the door open for a resurgent Kansas State to, like you said, pull the upset, in a low scoring kind of rock fight kind of game. So I'm going to take the Kansas State team total under. I think that's probably my safest play, but I don't have a ton of conviction here any which way in this game.
I mean, I think that's fair. Looking at the six that we pull in team totals, like, it's split. USP Plus and Pair have it going over. FEI, Beta, and Parker all have it going under. And so, when a 50-50 split, I'm going to lean towards the side of that I feel better. I feel like the under makes a lot of sense just based off of what these two teams have kind of done and what's led to their success thus far into the season. So we got one more afternoon game. Like I said, very different. This one, 3 p.m. God's time, ESPN Plus. Kansas playing host to Oklahoma State. So Kansas is on their Big 12 idle week, as we like to call it now, when Oklahoma State plays a football game so far this season. Kansas, a 24.5 point favorite. That's a big number for Kansas. Total is 56.5. There's some weird numbers. What is that? Fanatics? We're not touching that. That's neither of those are remotely close to what everybody else is. So we're going to rely with everybody else is. I'm going first here. Listen, I got a few notes. I'm not sure that's going to really affect my opinion on this game. I went and looked back at the week after Sunflower Showdown for Lance Leipold since he took over at Kansas. He beat Iowa State last year by 9, won at Cincinnati in 23, convincingly. 22, it was the final game of the regular season, so we're not going to count the bowl game because there's too much of a gap there. And then 21, they won at Texas, that big Texas game, 57-56. So 3-0 when there's a game, and immediately the week after Sunflower Showdown. And there's no reason to believe that Kansas shouldn't win this game. If this game was in Stillwater, I might consider it, but it's not. It's in Lawrence, and I ain't taking it. Oh, Chase, I can see his eyebrows already. If he had a mustache and twirl, I think he'd be doing it. I will say this, though. There are some numbers that say that Oklahoma State's offense has been better since they switched off onto the current OC, the guy actually calling plays, which was the quarterback coach. Also, Oklahoma State's rush defense, the first 4 games of the season, gave up 213 yards a game on the ground at 5.4 yards per carry. Oklahoma State's rush defense the past 4 games, 110.5 yards per game on the ground and 2.9 yards per carry. I do think this Oklahoma State team has been better. It's why I still stand by. I think they might actually win another game before the season is over. If this game was in Stillwater, I would actually take Oklahoma straight up to pull off the upset. The fact that it's in Lawrence, I don't like picking Kansas to win a game against anyone by 24.5 points. That's insane to me right now. I've watched enough of this Kansas team to be like, ugh. So while Kansas is going to win, I'm certainly not picking an upset. I'm going to take Oklahoma State to cover 24.5. I think there's a real shot that they can do it. Now, look, Jalen Daniels should probably have a pretty good game against them, and he made me look pretty stupid for this. But I just don't think that Kansas should be that big of a favorite against a team even like Oklahoma State. So OSU plus 24.5 on the road against the Jayhawks. Tyler?
Yeah, this is another kind of tricky one for me. A lot of mixed numbers here. I make it Kansas minus 25.5. So, I mean, technically my numbers are leaning Kansas, but over the last 3, to your point, I would only make Kansas about a 15.5 point favorite here. So, okay, what do you do with that? I think I'm going to play the over. I project 61 points in this game. Last 3, I still project 58. Over the last 3 games, Oklahoma State is giving up about over 6 points more than allowing 6 points more than teams average against everybody else. So they're still kind of giving up a bunch on defense, and I think the Kansas offense is ripe to be able to take advantage of that. So I'm gonna play the over here because I definitely don't trust the Kansas defense. So I think over is my safest play, but again, I don't have a ton of conviction here, as you can tell.
That was a really nice way of saying that Oklahoma State's defense is still bad. Like that was really nice of you, Tyler, as an OSU fan.
I try to be politically correct.
Appreciate you sugarcoating that as best as you can. Chase, what would you like?
Well, I don't know the last time I bet a 14-1 underdog in college football, but I have Oklahoma State 14-1 in the FanDuel account right now, and FanDuel is what has the best number. That's the only reason I mentioned them. I'm not saying I think Oklahoma State is going to win. I am saying I have watched this team throw out the Texas Tech game. I think the offense is better. I think this price is very wrong. And so whenever you think a price is wrong because the market is lagging behind changes to a team, this is particularly true. College football in November, right? Stuff changes. People are making lines like it's week 5 when it's week 10. Stuff changes. Oklahoma State's offense is getting better, but the market sees a 1-win team that hasn't, I don't think, beaten an FBS team yet this year.
Not since week 3 of last season.
Yeah, so that's pretty bad, and that explains why they're 14-1, obviously. But I just think this number is wrong. I think Tyler's 15.5. That sounds about right to me, just on gut feel. I think they're going to be more live in this game than people realize. I think 24.5 is too high. Look, guys, I didn't bet $1,000 on 14-1 Oklahoma State. I took a piece of it. But 24.5 is a bet that I have. 14-1 is a bet that I have. And I'm telling you right now, I'm not going to bet this because this isn't the kind of thing that I do. But if you like betting same game parlays, I think I would take Phillip's plus the points bet and Tyler's over bet, and I would put them together in a same game parlay, because I think what this game looks like is Oklahoma State has more success than is anticipated by the market. Obviously, Daniels is going to score. Kansas's offense is going to score. And so you're going to get a high-scoring game relative to what the market thinks, where Oklahoma State stays inside the number because their offense is more successful than anticipated.
Right. Okay. I like it. That's fun. All right, so you're also on Oklahoma State plus 24.5 then. Okay, since we don't typically do money lines.
Yeah, I'm not pulling a Parker here and saying Oklahoma State money line.
That was bold choice, Cotton. We'll see how it worked out for him. Did not work out. Okay, we move on down the list here to our nighttime slate, and we'll get to it in just a moment.
This episode is brought to you by Amazon Business. We could all use more time. Amazon Business offers smart business buying solutions, so you can spend more time growing your business and less time doing the admin. I can see why they call it smart. Learn more at amazonbusiness.com.
All right, 2 night games for the Big 12. Our primetime game, close to primetime, 6 p.m. God's time kickoff, FS1. Colorado playing host to Arizona, a former Pac-12 matchup, if you please. Arizona, 4 to 4.5 point favorite on the road. Total in this one, sitting at, it refreshed on me, and I have to find it again, 52.5. There's a couple of 53.5s out there, if that is of interest to you. Chase, you are up first. No, wait, 1, 2, 3, 1. Oh, Tyler's up first. Forgive me. I apologize. Tyler, what would you like in this one, sir?
I don't see any way I could bet on Colorado at this point. I mean, the beatdown that they just took, and I get that, like, this in theory should be like a bounce back spot, but like, man, it is tough to pick a team after looking the way they did in their last game. I make Arizona a 5-point favorite, so like I don't show a ton of value on the surface there on the number. But looking at the last 3, I would make Arizona almost a 10-point favorite, which feels a little more right in this situation. Not that Arizona's great, but man, again, Coach Prime and those boys are up against it this year. I'm going to lay the points with Arizona. I couldn't touch anything having to do with Colorado here, so I'm going to lay the points with Arizona.
All right, Arizona minus 4.5. Chase?
I need to go back and check the record book here. I think I've hit 7 Colorado bets correctly in a row on this podcast. So I think we need to get the research team on what's the all-time podcast record for most consecutive correct bets on a school. We'll have your assistant maybe flag that for next week, Phillip.
You're wrong. You're wrong.
Am I? Okay.
Yeah.
What'd I miss?
Week 6, Colorado plus 13.5 versus TCU.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's right. That was the terrible. I'm still mad about that one. Yeah, it was so close. I just in my head, I think I graded it as a win. To be a legend in your own mind.
And you didn't. You got and week 1, you had Colorado plus 4.5 versus Georgia Tech.
Yeah. I knew I missed week 1. I missed week 1. I thought I'd hit everything since post Georgia Tech. I don't know why I have had such a good feel for this team this year. I think rather than it being any sort of preternatural skill on my part, I think I'm just zigging and zagging correctly, and so I'm gonna kind of keep doing that. I kind of blinded. I didn't have a feel for last week, so I just said, "Hey, let's assume Utah kills them." I didn't think it was gonna be like that. I mean, that was like pornographic. That was bad. But I will go back to the Colorado zig here and take the points with them as a home dog. They've been pretty good as a home dog this year. I believe they have covered every home game this season, except for that Georgia Tech game. So they've been pretty solid as a short home dog. I think that maybe continues here. I don't necessarily know that they win, but I think it'll be tight with Arizona. So I'll take the.
Let's see. Against the spread as home team,
4.5.
2025, Big 12. Colorado is, all right. Closing numbers, at least, Colorado's 3-1-1 against the spread as a home team so far.
Yeah, and that one was Delaware, and it depends where you bet it. So right. I had, and I remember I actually had a real life bet on Delaware at 24.5, but if you got the 23.5, then you lost. So it just, in some places it closed 24.
So yeah, yes, absolutely. Now I want to pull something up. Let's see. Yeah. And as a away team, Arizona is 0-2. We've talked about this Arizona team, and we kind of flip-flopped on them just because of kind of how things have happened and how teams look on their schedule moving forward. To the point, like Colorado got destroyed last week. Like if you watch that game, like at a certain point, they looked like they quit. Like they had negative 18 yards of offense in the first half. Like that team kind of just like, all right, we're going to punt on this game. We're good. We're done. And I don't know, is that the season? We punted on the season, or was that you know what? Yeah, we'll move on to next week. I don't know.
I think that's we're not even watching the tape. Just
you just throw the tape out and move on to next week, and we're on to Arizona. And so I know things have changed on Arizona's schedule moving forward to make us go from they're not going to make a bowl game to like they could. But this is the same Arizona team that has just consistently blown games, consistently found ways to lose. Like they remind me of Cincinnati last year. Nice hot start. Hey, things could go really well. They start the season 3-0, 4-1. Then you lose in double overtime to BYU at home. You lose a game at Houston that you probably should have won. Now, they're coming off of an idle week. They didn't play last week, so they've had a week off. I mean, I guess you could say Colorado kind of had a week off given the way effort they actually put into that game after about the first quarter. I don't like either team. I'm okay with Arizona being favored because on paper they should be. I just don't know that I like Arizona to cover this. So Chase, I'm going to ride with you on this one and take Colorado. This is where I'm going to ride on your, Colorado's better than we think. I think last week was just last week. I don't even want to call it a bounce back. I just think they're actually going to, try and win at home in this one. And I just don't trust Arizona. I don't trust Arizona to not screw this game up somehow. I don't. I absolutely do not on the road. So, Colorado plus 4.5. I'll come along with you. All right, we got one more Big 12 game. It's the game we mentioned earlier. Not only is College Game Day going to come to a game that will not kick off until 9:15 p.m. God's time, which is an insane thing to say. This is a first ever meeting. Utah and Cincinnati have never played football against each other in the history of either programs. We're going to have two or more of those in the Big 12 this season in the coming weeks. Thrilled about this one. Like I said, 9:15 p.m. God's time kickoff on ESPN. Utah, Cincinnati. This one should be an absolute doozy, or it'll be another one of those games where it's absolutely one-sided and not as much fun or exciting as we thought, but you'll get to go to bed earlier. And I believe this is this roll the clocks, pick up an hour? Stay up, folks. You get to add an hour. You get to add an hour. So it's really it's like this game kicks off at 8:15, not 9:15. So don't worry about it. Utah currently a 10.5 point favorite, depending upon the book. Total in this one, pretty much 55.5 across the board. Chase, you are up first, sir. What would you like here?
Yeah, we had PJ on the show a couple weeks ago. I was doing PJ's show today, and he asked me about this game, and he asked me about Vanderbilt, Texas. And I thought both those games kind of fell into the category we referenced earlier with Baylor UCF of, I see what the number is, and it feels like we're setting prices based on branding and not the football on the field. I think Utah here getting to, when I saw 10.5 was the last I saw. That's crazy to me. You're not 10.5 points better than the Cincinnati team based on what we've seen. So if you want to tell me, hey, big environment, bright lights, ESPN coming to town, it's in Salt Lake City and Cincinnati just gets over its skis, okay, but I'm going to have to see it because 10.5 to me is a crazy number. I thought 7.5 was a crazy number. So 10.5 for me, I'm going to be all over the points. I'm going to have a money line ticket. I think Cincinnati's straight up the better team. I think they're going to be able to run on Utah. I'm not saying in a declarative way, I for sure think they're going to win this game, but they definitely can, and 10.5 is nuts.
Yeah, it's wild to me, and I'll let Tyler talk about his numbers, that everything is consensus Utah. But the smallest is SP Plus has Utah minus 9.1. No. Parker's got Utah minus 6.5. But FEI is cover the 10.5. Beta's cover the 10.5. Payers cover the 10.5. Kelly Ford has Utah with an 82% chance to win. That I don't understand that. When I come into a game where I go, I understand Utah's reputation. I think Utah has a better offensive and defensive line than Utah, or that Cincinnati has the better offensive and defensive line this year.
Correct. Yes.
Which
you would not normally say about a Utah squad.
No, but Cincinnati's given up 2 sacks. They have allowed 59 negative rushing yards this season. They are the best offensive line in the country, and they're not going to get talked about. They're not getting talked about nearly enough. They are a phenomenal offensive line. So much of the credit for why Brendan Sorsby is having the season he's having is because he is able to be so comfortable behind that offensive line with a very nice collection of wide receivers. I understand that since their starting running back isn't going to play in this game, they've got another running back who's going to fit in just fine. I am with you. Here's one thing that I do have to talk about in this game. Injury report drama with Utah. Devin Dampier, last week, heading into the game, was listed on the initial injury report as limited. Then he was upgraded to probable. And then he was removed from the injury report altogether ahead of the game. And then freshman Bird Ficklin, which, by the way, Bird Ficklin is an incredible name. Just phenomenal. Started for Utah, played the whole game, ran all over Colorado. And everyone just goes, it's not illegal, like what they did. There's no rules against what they did. But, like, really? This is what we're going to do, Whittingham? Like, I get that it's Whittingham. This is very, like, read out of his book. But, like, can we... Like, the whole point of this is to offer a little bit of clarity and insight into what's going. It's just Utah. Give me Cincinnati plus 10.5. I don't understand. I get the numbers, but I don't. This is one of those ones where I'm like, I hate talking about, like, eye test. I hate the term eye test because it's always used against, like, the Big 12. But eye test says that Cincinnati should win. Should not be a 10.5 point dog on the road at Utah. So I'm riding with you. Tyler?
Yeah, I can't believe this line is up to 10.5. When I put my initial sheet together on Sunday, it was 6.5. So crazy that it's climbed 4 points. This is one where, like, I have to diverge Tyler's opinion from TSI because, like, I agree with you guys. Like, when I saw the slate for this week and I was, like, looking at, I try to just kind of scroll down through all the games, like, okay, what jumps out to me based on what I've seen before I've even looked at my updated numbers. And this was one I was like, oh, I will be looking to bet on Cincinnati in this game. And then I updated my numbers and saw the spread. I've got Utah minus 12.5 over the last 3 games. I've got Utah minus 14. And even K Ford, who, we mentioned is, kind of like my market simulator, basically. His numbers would make it like 11.5 approximately. So, like, pretty unanimous. So I've learned over the years when my gut tells me one thing, but all of the numbers are telling me another, and the market is strongly agreeing with the numbers, like, I'm just going to ride with the numbers because I'm dumber than my numbers. So I'm going to lay the points here with Utah.
All right. Listen, you're a man of principle. Go ahead, Jace.
Just to underscore the points that you and I were making, Phillip, Cincinnati, 13th nationally in yards per play, 4th nationally in net EPA for offensive play, number 9 in total offensive success rate, number 10 in run play offensive success rate.
They're just, like, they're not flashy. They're not, like, crazy up-tempo, high-scoring Big 12, like, but, like, they're just good. Like, they're just a good football team. Like,
Cincinnati rush offense, number 17th nationally in EPA per rush. Utah defense, number 104 in FBS EPA per rush allowed. So there's your matchup right there.
Cincinnati might run all over Utah. I mean, just...
Yeah. And, wow. Utah has the advantage in the passing game, I would think. But, if Dan Pierre's not available, then I don't know. What kind of downgrade are you taking to your... I believe Bird is their 3rd string quarterback. I know he played last week, but I think, like, over the course of the season, I actually got this from Will Hill at VSiN, that the actual 2nd string quarterback at Utah, I believe, had an NIL conflict with the team. And so he is now sitting out, and they went to Bird, the 3rd string, who became the 2nd string because of...
I think it's also worth pointing out Cincinnati running back Evan Pryor has been ruled out for this game as well. I don't know if that changes your opinion at all, but worth noting.
Yeah, and I've got it. Hold on, let me pull up his name. Their RB2 has been really good for them. And again, so much of this is about, man, that offensive line is so... I don't understand why it doesn't get the national conversation, national praise that it should.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do.
I know I do. I do know why.
Yeah,
I just keep hoping that someone else will pick up on how ridiculously good it has been. Because I will beat the drum for this offensive line all day. Like, and you know me, I've dogged on Satterfield since the moment he got hired, but I have to give them credit. Like, this offensive line is the reason this team is having the success that it is having. It is so good.
Phillip, you and I host a weekly show about the Big 12 football conference. What week last year were you and I like, we're ready to say Arizona State is good? This offensive line is good. Cam Scadaboo is good. That kid might play in the NFL someday. He's so good. What week did we say that? Was it week 12? And we watched this every week, you and me. So, yeah, week 10 is not deep enough into the season for the national media to be like, have you seen Cincinnati's offensive line?
Yeah, but I've been saying it since like week 4. Tawi Walker has been really good for them. Averages 5.2 yards per carry, got 466 yards on the season. And Sorsby's legs, like he can run well. And so I not having Pryor sucks, but I'm not. It's not like the whole entire rushing game is built around him.
Having said all that, I cannot wait for Tyler's numbers to be right and Utah to win by 17.
Yeah. The thing I should point out here too about the numbers is that my number's been very high on Cincinnati. I mean, I bet them week 1 against Nebraska. I've bet them several times throughout the season. So my numbers are not like anti-Cincinnati by any means. They've been very high on Cincinnati throughout the season, which is kind of all the more eyebrow raising for me when I looked at this. Like, oh, I've been on Cincinnati several times, and now my numbers are that far off of where the market was on Sunday. I think I ended up getting in. I think I bet Utah at like -8 earlier in the week.
The Utah losses this season. I mean, you lost by Texas Tech in a game that was close until like early in the fourth quarter, and when Texas Tech pulled away, and then you lost a rivalry game against a good BYU team. Like, I almost feel like we forget Utah is actually really good. It's just like I hope this game is worth staying up late for. Like, I really do. It's either this is gonna be a great game and Cincinnati wins, or Utah is gonna like build a big lead early and it's just gonna be over. I feel like those are the only two options. That's it. Okay. We move on to our last picks of the show. We each get to make one non-Big 12 pick of our choosing. I have a bunch that I wrote down. And so I'm going to save the ones I'm not going to use because I want to pick you guys' brain. I've gone back and forth on two picks. And as I've sat here debating which one to go, I thought long and hard about taking Wake Forest plus, it's now 10, plus 10 versus Florida State, because why in the world would Florida State be favored by 10 against anybody the way they've played since the start of conference ACC play? And goodness gracious, I have no reason to believe this team's going to suddenly be different now. And Wake Forest tends to play up to the competition. So I've liked that one. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do something that I don't normally do, which is take a solid favorite who I see a line where I say, I think they should be favored by more. I'm taking Memphis minus 13.5 at Rice. No, give me Memphis. I like this Memphis team. I wanted them last week and Oliver got to them first. And so I'm taking them this week on the road at a Rice team that's just, whatever. Fine. Memphis is going to cover 2 touchdowns and I will feel good about it.
Big old fat letdown spot there.
Tyler?
Yeah, sorry. I was looking to see what the updated lines were. I think my game is going to be, I think I'm going to lay a big number with Notre Dame. I think they're very good. I've got them in the top 4 of my ratings. I think they're getting their defense figured out. They're, the first couple weeks they were a team. It was like, all right, I'm going to just bet their overs basically blindly for the rest of the season. But it seems like they've got their defense somewhat figured out. So that's no longer the case. Yeah, I'm going to lay 28.5 with Notre Dame at Boston College.
I heard this game referred to this week as Catholics versus Catholics. I thought it was very funny. Tyler, I know we don't do a lot of wider college football talk on the show, but I want to tee you up to talk about this just because I think it's interesting. Do you still have Notre Dame at number 3?
Let me check. I believe that is still the case.
What do you think it is? What do you think it is about Notre Dame that has them that high in your system?
Let me glance quickly at their results.
While you're doing that, I'll just say, if you're thinking about doing a podcast, kids, it's always great to ask a question to a guest that presupposes your audience knows something that's been discussed on other shows with the guest and not referenced on the show you're listening to. That's always great hosting.
So looking at especially what they've done over the last 3, holding Boise State to 7 that's 22 points below Boise's average. So that was a huge boost for Notre Dame. They held NC State to 7, which was 20 points below their average. And then they held USC to 24, which is 18 points below their average. And they put up 34 in that game. The offense has been there all season. Their offense is really good, especially the running game. But I think the defense getting it put together, at least in what they've done from a scoring output, which again is like we can get into success rate and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, like how many points did you give up? Opponent adjusted for that. I think that's where Notre Dame's really made the most strides over the last month.
I see their playoff prices and I can't believe they're that big of a favorite to make it. But
that is crazy. Someone pointed that out to me on one of the shows I did this week, and I was like, "What?" I thought it would be like, I don't know, like minus 120 or something. And it's like minus 350.
Yeah, it's wild.
It's crazy.
A team whose best win is going to be USC. That's pretty wild.
Yeah. I get, like, from a resume standpoint, totally understand people not having them in the top 10 or whatever. That's fine. But from a power rating standpoint, how I would be betting them moving forward, they're very, very good. And honestly, like, Utah is kind of in that category, which again goes back to the Cincinnati game. Like, Utah's, I'm probably much higher on Utah than most.
For mine, Phillip, I think, there's a few I like this week. There's nothing I really love. I did like FIU Missouri State under 52.5 or whatever the number was. Fortunately, that game started before our show tonight, so I cannot use that. It's currently 14-14, middle of the third quarter. I'm going to lay 3.5 with Tennessee. I think the book is out on Oklahoma. Mateer's not healthy. His hand is jacked up. He came back too early. I think defenses have adjusted to what they're doing. I think this 3.5 is a pretty good price for a game in Knoxville between the Vols and the Sooners if this was week 5 or 6. But I think week 10, this should be Tennessee -6, Tennessee -6.5, something like that. So I think this is a little light, and the market's not adjusting correctly to what Oklahoma is now. So I'll lay the points.
There are 3s on the board, sir. So congratulations.
Are there really? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
A couple I want to ask you guys about. One just piques my interest. We talk about cross-country trips all the time, and I don't think you can get more cross-country than Pitt traveling to Stanford. Like, I get that Pitt should be favored by this much, mostly because Stanford, but man, that feels like a trap game to have to travel that far cross-country for an afternoon game.
Yeah, it's like, are you going to trust Pat Narduzzi to have his team ready to play, going cross-country to play a Stanford team? I don't know. My number is 15, so like I'm kind of right with the market. So I don't have a strong play. Yeah, my just kind of analysis of it would be like I couldn't play Pitt. I couldn't lay 2 touchdowns with Pitt going cross country to Stanford in this game.
I think too, like, play the team, play the coach. Like, what are the histories of these specific programs and coaches? This is such a spot where Pitt loses. Just like an unranked, deeply unimpressive team that they lose to outright on the road. No evidence of that happening with Pitt this year that I can think of off the top of my head. So yeah, I just think now, funny enough, like, that's not even the cross-country ACC team I would look at first this week. I think UVA is dicey as a 4.5 point road favorite at Cal. This is like Miami last year. They win everything by the skin of their teeth and land a number north of 3 on the road against a Cal team that's pretty competent. Like, I would be on the Cal side.
No, that's a good call. That's a good call too. Okay. Hey, listen, we talk about it all the time. Service Academy unders since 2005, 46, 13, and 2 to the under. Army is at Air Force, but what's interesting to me is it looks like a lot of the numbers, like I pulled SP Plus, are projecting that this should go over the 49.5. But I didn't want to go to this one because, man, like, I know it's such a tried and true thing, but I don't know with this one. I didn't want to take the under here.
Yeah, you got to throw the stat out this year. Air Force is like 6-1 to the over, and I mean they're not close overs. A lot of them either. They're just like the defense is bad. There's a lot of explosives. Like, they're a dead over team most weeks. So even though they're playing Army and the Service Academy stat is in play, I would be throwing that out, and I would be not playing it or looking at the over.
Yep, agreed. I've learned after many failed attempts to bet an over in the Service Academy game that, like, if my number says over, then that just means don't play it, because it just goes under so often, regardless of what the number should be. I make it 63.5, so like my number shows a ton of value there, but I can't do it. Air Force has been an over machine, but I can't do it.
Yep. All right, last one. I pulled this stat before. I enjoy this stat. It's a fun one. When you win as a dog in a top 25 matchup and are a favorite the next week, 86, 112, and 3 against the spread since 2021, 23 and 41 the last 2 seasons. You guys laughed at me. It worked with the Indiana-Michigan State game a couple weeks ago.
I didn't laugh at you. You got lucky as hell.
Hey. A win is a win. The book doesn't care.
No, I'm not disagreeing. All cash is the same. I'm saying they kicked the field goal to make a Michigan State alum happy that had a big bet somewhere. Like it was like an artificial cover.
There is another such situation this week. Now, I didn't take it because I don't think this stat's going to hold for this one. But it's Ole Miss, who beat Oklahoma as a dog last week, is at home versus South Carolina, and the number is only like, what was it? Did I see it? 12.5, 13.5 or something? Hold on, where is it? No, I can find it. Basically, it was not enough. Yeah, 12.5. I was like, no, not doing it this week.
Yeah, I mean, I would lean South Carolina qualitatively speaking, but what gives me pause and why it's not like a formal bet, because this is one I considered, is I do wonder if you got the best punch last week against Alabama, and now they're just kind of emptied the tank last week.
Yeah, I agree. My number's right in line with the market, so I don't have a strong play here on the number, but I agree. Teams the week after they play Ohio State, Georgia, Bama, teams like that, like I don't like betting on them that next week, because it just takes such a physical and emotional toll, especially in a game that was like, I mean, down to the wire like that, where South Carolina feels like it, probably slipped away from them. I would not want to back that team the following week, especially going on the road, and especially with the way Ole Miss is playing right now. You got to give them credit. They took Georgia down to the wire and then went to Oklahoma and won last week. So Ole Miss is playing good ball right now, and I wouldn't want to back South Carolina after that Alabama game.
Nope. All right. You guys, thank you so much. Tyler, seriously, thank you so much for joining us today. It is always a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much for letting us use your numbers here every week. It is. I love pulling them up. I love spouting them out. I love interacting with you on social media, man. You are fantastic, and I love to see all the success that you are having, and all the other people who continue to recognize it.
I appreciate it. I really do. Thank you guys for staying in touch. Love talking to you guys. But we tweet at each other, but we also have a running DM. So definitely look forward to that conversation as well. So appreciate you guys always promoting me, and happy to come back anytime we can make the schedules align.
Thank you for making my gym trips so educational.
I appreciate it. I hope that I can, add like 5 pounds to your bench just in pure adrenaline, listening to me spout off numbers.
I was saying that as a joke, obviously, but when I hear another dude talking about how he can dunk and I can't, I mean, I added the second part there, obviously. But if you were going on radio talking about how I can't dunk, I would take that pretty personally. But it does, you probably can find that extra rep in there, like that guy can dunk.
Yeah, well, I don't even have to talk about it, because Kelly Bidlin does my bidding for me. He stays hyping me up with the dunking stuff. So I gotta tone it down.
He just lobs you that every week. Yeah.
I look forward to adding bench press to our no context graphic for this week, Chase. So thank you for that, as always. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Enjoy the games this weekend. We'll be back on Monday to recap the weekend that was. Again, thank you to Tyler. Make sure and check out the TShoe Index. Check out Chase's bets for this week in the show notes. And y'all, have a good one. Happy Halloween.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
AI agents are everywhere, automating tasks and making decisions at machine speed. But agents make mistakes. Just one rogue agent can do big damage before you even notice. Rubrik Agent Cloud is the only platform that helps you monitor agents, set guardrails, and rewind mistakes, so you can unleash agents, not risk. Accelerate your AI transformation at Rubrik.com. That's RUBRIK.com.